Welcome, everybody. I think it's a little bit of a special event today. I have something special to show you, and I'm very curious what your reaction will be. So let me, oh, wait a minute. I'll switch to the speaker slide, which is better for recording, but I'm going to share my screen for a while, I think. So it doesn't matter that much. So I have a relatively small crew here today, which is a pity, but I think, I don't know how many people, 9 I see right now, including myself, maybe some other people. Well, there are still people joining, I see. So we'll just let that go ahead. But in the meantime, get started on some interesting things. So one thing we can have maybe a short discussion on a little bit later is Deep Funding Round 3. So last time we came to the conclusion that we will not have a voting event on the governance voting event between round 2 and round 3. So in that sense, everything is open to think about when we want to start round 3. But there are some other aspects to that, and I'll talk you to one important one. So allow me to share my screen, one moment. So I created a presentation, and let me put it on slides. It's about a platform. So I would like to talk to you about our current platform and point out some pros and cons and how we are going to treat them, how we plan to treat them, and if and how that should impact our round 3. So, our platform provider is Sway, and we have a very good relationship with them. It's a small team, it's a new team, they're doing great things. But we are also noticing that there are some downsides to Sway. So let's start with the positives. So the positives are they have a very flexible system with forms that you can make and missions, etc. It allows us to do most of the things that we want to do and do it very well as well. They have missions with expiry dates and archiving and intermediate states and a number of things that I thought at first might be a little bit overkill, but actually is quite handy and fitting. So I'm very happy with that part. The commenting system is not perfect for reasons I will tell later, but it's reasonably good, and you can have positives, negatives, and questions, and it works. What I specifically like is that we, and also want to compliment the team on that, when we started out with Deep Funding, Sway was only visible after a login, so you had to log in, create a login before you could see anything. And I think it was 1 or 2 months after our collaboration started with them that specifically on our request, they changed that. And they made the whole view open before login. And you would only need to log in when you want to engage with the platform. And I think it was really wonderful because that's quite a substantial thing to do. And to do that just for us in a short time frame really showed their commitment. Since then, they also added Web3 login on Ethereum, MetaMask only at this stage, but still an interesting step forward. And yeah, of course, they have an enthusiastic and collaborative team, and they listen and they take us seriously, and they are, if they can, they will help us with whatever is possible. And on top of this, there's also probably a lot of things that I'm not mentioning now because I'm just taking them for granted, and yeah, maybe they'll surface later. So there are also some downsides to Sway, and we knew from the beginning that there were some things that we would like to have improved, and I made a list quite early of things I would like to have improved, but the velocity of these improvements didn't go as fast as these first changes led me to believe. So let's have a look at the downsides. And this is really important. So I'll just take my time to go over this. So submissions forms. There's one thing that I really think is lacking at the moment. We cannot specify a form and then ensure that some fields are required, that a proposer has to fill them. If a proposer wants, he can delete the complete form and then start all over again with whatever he wants. While that may be useful in some cases, for our particular use case, it's not helpful. Another small thing is I can't limit the number of characters in a specific field. So I would love to limit the number of characters in the summary field. So some people make a summary that is this long and it's not useful for any kind of overview. And then finally, it's also very limited in pre-formatted forms. For instance, I would love to have something in the milestones where we can have more structured so that everybody fills in the milestones in exactly the same way, and that we can also much easier use them later on. And it's much easier for the general public to consume because it's always in the same format. It's also important to note here that it has consequences, these things. Apart from usability, a very concrete consequence is that in the previous rounds, I think we had, well, even more than 30% of proposals that were not eligible. Just for the formal rules. They didn't comply to the formal rules that we laid out. And my thinking is, but maybe we can prove this in time, that if we would have had more guiding and structured and maybe required forms, we could bring that percentage down. Probably not to 0%, but a way down. And the importance is that it will save a lot of frustration and lost effort from proposers and also from the team. So that's the first batch of downsides or limitations, I would say. The next one has to do with notifications. So commenting works nice in the proposal view. But if you get a mail that somebody commented on or gave a reply to your comment or whatever, the only thing you get is a link. And with that link, you have to open the page, and then the page loads. And then in the page, you have to find where that new comment is. Instead, alternatively, ideally, you would like to have already in the mail the context. Hey, here's your comment, and this is the reply, something like that. And then you can choose whether it's urgent enough to have a reply right away, or if it's not needed to have another action, for instance. A minor point is that it would be even better if there would be an option to aggregate such notifications over the day. So, for instance, that you can have only one such notification a day, or can even configure it or whatever. That ties into the last point here, which is a bug. There is a bug that some users reported having, I don't remember the exact number, but I think it was hundreds of notification mails in one day, and all the same ones. So for that reason, I discussed with Sway that maybe it would be better the next time to have that whole notification off, because it's of course very awkward if we are spamming our users that way. The result of these downsides is that it's hard to keep track of conversations, and some conversations, some important messages are just not being picked up by us, and perhaps also not by others. Third point, no API. So we started out working on our own deep funding website, creating. So we thought that the overviews of Sway were not quite targeted to our purposes. I would like to have an overview with the main things that people need in the context of deep funding to draw their attention. So, for instance, the funded amount they are requiring, the title, the round and the pool, and a summary, a short summary. So they do have some overview, but I didn't think it was ideal. So we started having these overviews on our WordPress site. But there's no API. So this is not only a lot of manual work, but it's also prone to errors. And if a user updates their page and we don't notice that, we don't see that, then maybe these updates won't be passed along to the website. And in fact, that also happened in the last round, where we had summaries in the voting portal even based on WordPress. And we didn't notice that somebody at the last stage actually made some updates, which is also kind of inconvenient or even painful. So it gives overhead, and it makes the whole system a little bit less up-to-date and reliable. Finally, some general observations. I think you all have experienced that pages are slow to load, sometimes very slow to load. Personally, I liked the idea when we started with Sway that they did have these AI tools in, if not for functionality, then just for the idea of having a platform that takes AI seriously. Unfortunately, in my personal experience, they are often more in the way than helpful. And one specific example is the AI summary that is generated. Like human summaries, also the AI summary is sometimes very long, even if the proposal is not that long. And while it is possible to remove it and make your own version out of that, it's not obvious to everybody that this is possible, and people don't do it or forget it or whatever. And basically, it's just noise that gets in the way. Finally, I think there are some improvements that we can make to the editor, for instance, being able to add videos with a small preview image, have better tables. Well, that also ties into the formatting I managed before. So that whole user experience is suboptimal. Which makes it harder to consume the information, right? And to scan it and to focus on the things that for you are most important. One more. Last slide on improvement areas. So just a few other things, but these are more things. These are not so much things that are wrong or lacking. These are things that could be further improved if we had the time and resources to do so, or if Sway would have that. So one thing, and we can talk about the algorithm below it, but it would be helpful, I think, to have more relevant comments, have more visibility by having them float up or whatever. We also noticed a few times that it would be much better if there would be more hierarchy in missions and pools, especially if they're doing two things at the same time, like something on the supervisory council election and something on a next round or governance round. And maybe also with the history of previous missions and pools. So I think that there's some room for improvement there. A smaller thing, I think, is that there is this voting option in Sway, but it's not really used by us. We don't have a real purpose for it, and it's potentially confusing because When we talk about voting, we talk about voting in our voting portal and not voting on our proposal portal. You see the confusion already. So yeah, if it were up to me, maybe we could have had it removed at this stage. Maybe there is some use there's definitely some use in other cases, but not for our specific use case. Also a minor thing is that sometimes people create a proposal in a wrong pool for whatever reason, and there's no way for us to make that change, to say, also not in the back end, to say, okay, we'll move it to the other pool. So that would require a user to make another proposal in another pool, and sometimes the old one sticks around, and that also sometimes gets confusing. And it's extra work and an extra hurdle. Some other things that we would like to see in the future, that I want to see in the future, is integration of contribution scores. Exactly how and what, etc. We'll have plenty of opportunity to discuss. I can imagine just in the profile of people, or have it as a weight factor in comments, so that comments from people with a high contribution score get a little bit extra visibility compared to new users of the platform. Maybe also related to that, have a little bit improved rating options for comments. Right now it's only thumb up or thumb down. Maybe we can make that a little bit sophisticated. Not 100% sure. We also don't want to overcomplicate it and over-engineer it. But another thing that will take a little bit more time. So last round we started on having peer reviews. That was a relative success, in a sense that I think we should really do that today. Actually, Raphael was going to have a small presentation on peer reviews and eligibility reviews, the two main processes we had last time. But that will probably have to wait until another day. But we are going to do that again. And regarding to peer reviews, we asked the peers, in this case the teams that were awarded in the previous round, to review the projects and to recommend the ones that they like best, but in a structured way. So based on things like feasibility, viability, desirability, and what we will add now is platform value. So we can do that perfectly in a spreadsheet and then write a blog on that. So this is not crucial at this time. Going forward in the future, it would be helpful to make that transparent and visible in the website, and use the website also to support the process. And ideally, I would like to see the same process being used by regular, not awarded teams, but by any community members, perhaps also with extra contribution weights there, so that we can factor in which ratings we should give most value. And I always compare this a little bit to the IMDb score, the movie database, where you have expert or critic reviews, and you have reviews from, well, regular people. And both have their merit, both say something about the same project. So the one is not better than the other, but it's a different perspective. So we would like to have a similar thing and see how that will evolve, and if we continue to have two of them. But it requires development work. Last but not least, what is quite awkward at the moment is that we, as a Deep Funding staff, we don't have any special contact option with teams that are proposing. Part of that is by design, because proposers, if they want, they can do so anonymously. I'm not sure if it's completely by design, but it's in any case awkward. So the only way in the past two rounds I could reach out to teams and give them a heads up on eligibility or a change of timing or whatever would be just to write a comment in the same section where everybody writes comments. So you have 35 comments below a proposal, and one is from the community staff saying something important about the process or whatever. And then connected with these, with the email notifications, that's not an ideal way to communicate. So ideally, I would like to have an option where the staff can just communicate to all proposing teams, either privately or in the open, that's to be determined. And maybe also have some one-on-one conversation. So these are things that I hope we will be able to have on the platform, and I would like to see these things emerge in the next, well, let's say 6 to 12 months. Maybe some more complex things might take a little bit more time or whatever. And the question is, will we be able to do that on Sway or not? So there's an alternative to Sway. An alternative would be to build out our own WordPress platform. And that is what we started out doing at the beginning of the year. So end of last year, we only had deep funding website with rules and conditions and timings and that kind of thing. What we started out doing at the beginning of this year is creating a better overview. I already mentioned that for awarded teams. With better and shorter summaries. A lot of times I wrote them myself because the teams made them long and it was too awkward. So I just wrote them and waited until anybody would complain about my summary, but nobody complained. But I hope that would give a better experience. There are some filters for pool and for round and a pool for round. And I'm not sure if everybody knows that there are also detail pages for the awarded teams where we can keep track of what they're doing. So you will be able to see there the milestone statuses of these teams. You will be able to see there the survey reviews that these teams filled out. So what is their current status? You will be able to see there all the presentations that we used to have in our bi-weekly or so team meetings. And now that would be the presentations that would be created in the context of the town halls, for instance. We could add them as well there. A little bit more recently, we expanded that by also, before round 2 actually, to have an overview of proposals, because we want to give the same experience for proposals, because there are much more proposals than awarded teams. So it's even more important to have a clear and concise overview. And on top of that, we had this new process of peer recommendations, and we also managed to visualize that in the proposal overview, so that you can very easily see which of these proposals get the blessing of our awarded teams. And also you could see, so we had a very successful, two very successful town halls, where a lot of these teams made a short presentation of what they proposed. And this allowed us to make a label there for all these presentations, making the whole user experience better and make it easier for the teams to filter the projects and zoom in on the ones that are most interesting to them. Mauro, I see you have your hand up. I would like to just go through this presentation and then afterwards have a discussion on all the things. But if you have something really important right now, then I'll give you a minute.
It's just a question about what will happen with the blog of deep funding. The main idea is to immigrate that info also to this new platform, or keep the blog of deep funding.
Bear with me, and your question will be answered. All right. Thank you. So the downside of this, all these overviews, there's still a lot of manual work, and it may not always be up to date due to changes on the original source, etc. So Let me go to the next slide. So, Mauro, we are not creating a different platform. We are actually expanding our WordPress platform to incorporate the functionality from Sway that we believe is essential for deep funding. So I also discussed this with Sway. They know about this, and we're still very good friends. We will continue to use Sway for other purposes. So, for instance, other community events and discussions, etc. It's still a good tool, but for deep funding purposes, we need some specific functionality like the things that I outlined. So we will add to it. So what I would like to do is to show you around a little bit in what we are creating. I have two things. I have an InVision app, which is just a click demo because the whole functionality is not finished yet, but we are making good progress. Another thing that I could show you, if that works, is a small video that our WordPress developer created today on the actual WordPress environment. So you can see, well, you can see the similarity. But I'll let you no longer in tension. So let me, oh, wait a minute, I can better do it like this. I think I have it open here. Well, let me first walk you through the things that we already did, that are already here, just to show it, right? So we have proposals. So these are the things that I'm talking about, just to refresh your mind, or maybe not everybody is equally familiar with this. So we have an overview here with awarded projects, and you can filter it on rounds, and you can filter it on pools. And if I filter it on a specific round, I will only have the pools that are relevant to that round. It has other things. It has round summaries and open proposals. We can get there later. And what you see here are these small summaries that I mentioned. And it has the awarded amount, it has the pool that it is in, and you could click to see the click through and see the complete project. So this is the project detail page of an awarded project in round one. And what you see here, so here you see everything that was added to Sway, just to have a kind of snapshot in time on this was the original proposal, so that we always can go back to it. We have the project updates, the presentations that the team did over time, so you can look back and see how they progressed as a kind of archive. What you will see here are the status reports. So you can click here and see what this team actually answered in the 6-weekly survey that we are sending out. And there are some summaries which are also created by the team themselves, by the way. So this is their view, though these are their answers on how they communicate their progress to us. Last but not least, or maybe not completely last actually, also not least, are the milestones. So you can see here what the status is of each of these milestones. You can, sometimes there is a deliverable that can be viewed by everybody, and you have a link that will go there. I won't do that right now. And then we have also a much nicer structured way of viewing these wonderful team members over here with these beautiful pictures. So I think this is already much better structured than anything in Sway. Sway had some rudimentary functionality here, so I could manage the milestones there, but it was really rudimentary. And the hope was a year ago that we would be able to expand and evolve that, but that has not materialized. So basically we are taking things in our own hands because of that. So going back to the overview, so this is already a good basis start. Open proposals is not, we don't have an open round yet, so I can't show you that. We do have here the round summaries where you can have the most important details of each round, including the pools and the amount of the pools and the number of proposals that were submitted and awarded. So some nice statistics, and also, Mauro, the blogs that are related specifically to each round. So that's what we have. Unfortunately, I can't show you the proposals. We'll have to wait for round 3 to open to have them there again. So let me now show you our new functionality that we are creating. So this is a click demo still. But I think it's a pretty accurate one. Not everything here is completely crystallized or thought out. Some things are a little bit placeholder or a little bit sketchy. So don't be zooming in. Yeah, you can zoom in on any detail, but be prepared for the answer that I say, well, we'll have to think about that a little bit. So starting with login. We don't have yet Web3 login. So this is just, well, actually there's also a sign up. You want to see the sign up? Well, the sign up is just a general, similar username, password. You get a mail for notification well, maybe I can do it. Let me see. Let's do the sign up. So it's similar, username, email, password. Create an account. It's a little bit slow today. I don't know why. Maybe I'm on the wrong network again. Yes, I'm on the wrong network. Damn it. Excusez-le-moi. But I'll just continue. Verification code, validate, and some agreements so that we can have some legal things up there, and an accept button, and then you're logged in, or are you logged in? Wow, this is slow. Yeah, I think this is not so I can sign out, sign in again. There's no Web3 login, but what we will do is to have a connection with our wallet linking tool. We haven't figured out finally how we will do it, but an easy way of doing it would be, and it would actually already be an appropriate way, I think, is so if you have one or multiple wallets connected to our wallet linking tool, so you would use it, for instance, if you have been on a voting event before, then you could have that ID, like kind of key cord, and you can put that ID in your profile. We will check that there's only one profile with that similar ID. And that way, your profile is already connected to whatever wallet you will add to the wallet linking tool. And those could be both wallets on Ethereum and wallets on Cardano. So we don't have a very sophisticated Web3 login yet, but to be honest, I think this is a pretty low-tech way that already covers most of the use cases that we want. So what you see here, if you're logged in, you see your projects. So this is an overview page of proposals and awarded projects, if you are that lucky. So there are a number of projects here. So one opportunity we have here is to allow people to start a new proposal, even when there is no active round. So they could already start and write some stuff and wait until the next round and then publish it officially. So here there will also be some other tabs in the future. So there will be one tab for the communication thing, for the where you have the mail notifications. They will also be here. Maybe you will have a tab or the same tab where there's also information from the staff to you. So we can make that much more sophisticated over time. But let me start by showing. Okay, now let me first start, I think. No, I'll just go through the motions here. Create a new proposal. So we have a multi-step setup here. So you start by mentioning in which round. So maybe round 3 is almost finished, and you think, well, I need a lot of time. I'll already start for round 4, or you can do that anytime. So therefore, for that reason, you can select which round you would like to start. The name is important, and a summary description, which will be restricted for the number of characters. You can choose an image, and here you can select the funding pool. I hope this will also remove a little bit of confusion about the pools. There's a description. Let me see, where is it? Maybe I have to do something else first. Well, I hope it's not an early version of ClickDemo. So here would be a description of the pool, where you can have a little bit pop up with a little bit longer text on what the pool is about and what the conditions are for the pool. And you can actually change the pool if you want. And you would have to add your funding amount already. So these are the first steps. Then in the next step, and this is a placeholder, so this would be a form based on the exact data that we want to have for each pool. So each pool will have a different form, which is the case already now in Sway, but we'll make it a little bit more formatted. And yeah, we already have that in the system, so that is a limited task. So this is just a placeholder. And then here are the milestones. So when you've added all the information on your project, so the regular information, what you want to achieve and whatever other things we want to know, you can add your milestones here. You always have the option to pause and to finish later. So I can imagine that this takes a while, that you don't do this in one session, but you need multiple sessions to create a good proposal, and you have that opportunity all the time. You can also go back to a previous step and make any changes. I'll continue, and then probably I can't submit, or I have set a proposal in draft mode, so I can't submit, or maybe I created it for a round which is not active, then I won't also not be able to submit, but I can finish later. Yeah, so let me see if I can go to this one. Yeah, so this was the proposal submit sequence. It needs a little bit of tweaking, like the form, but it will allow you to make changes go from one pool to another. Of course, different pools will have different fields. So it might be that you lose some information going from one to the other, but the important fields will always be the same, and it will still save you a lot of work. And you'll get a warning, etc. Be prepared. If you switched, you might lose some information and so on. This is the new layout of the project detail page. So in the current layout, this image is really big. It takes up all the screens. So we make this a little bit smaller, more modest, so that you have all the important information in one view. Also, the recommended tag is here, the titles are here, the proposals, well, all the other things that I showed you. But we also have tabs. So while in the current product detail page, project detail page, we have everything on one page. Here we have some tabs for easier browsing. And one thing that we're working on as we speak are the discussion. So these would be the commenting section for a project, and it will look a little bit like this. So one thing you will see here that we have vote up and vote down option. So it's not just, it's actually similar to thumbs up and thumbs down, but it signifies, it shows that it will also impact what the visibility will be of this particular comment. So you actually are empowered to make this comments float more to the service. I expect at some point we will also add reputation or contribution weights there, so that some people may have more impact on this floating than others, but that's also a thing we'll have to experiment with and see how that will work out. Of course, you can reply, etc. And one thing that is also a recent addition, we thought it would be nice to ask the proposer what they think the best comments are, because we can think what we like, etc. But the purpose of these comments in the end is to make better proposals. So, and who is better able to judge this than the proposer themselves? So if you make a comment and the proposer thinks, that's a good thing, I never thought about it, but now you mention it, I will add it to my proposal, thank you. Then he can thank you by giving you this label. And if this works out the way I hope it will work out, this would be a very good indicator of what good comments are. And it will influence a lot of things. It will influence reputation of the commenter, and it could influence the way these things are floating to the top. Again, we need to experiment with this. Maybe somebody finds a way to game it, but that's all in the journey that we're part of. Yeah, so there would also be a tab for the reviews and ratings. I won't show it because I think it's a little bit confusing at the moment. It's not how I would like it to be. Project team is also here, so you have all this nicely laid out. Maybe we'll do some more things with these team members later on, and have some kind of job and task exchange portal, but that is really later, I think. So yeah, I think this is what is basically makes the next, let's call it minimum viable product or minimum lovable product, the things that you see here. And this is of course just a click demo. We had this already months ago, but I can also show you briefly a video, which is just, I think, 2.5 minutes. So Arslan, our developer, created this morning, and I'll show it to you. And yeah, you can see for yourself that we'll make it a little bit bigger. That is actually very, very similar to what I just showed you. Almost boring, I hope. Let's see. It has no sound, so you're not missing out on anything there. Maybe I can just continue talking or have a sip of tea. So create a proposal, go through the names, summary description, select a feature. Okay, that's new. That's something I couldn't show you yet. Change pool, create an amount. He doesn't show the description, unfortunately. This screen is still a placeholder, but because we already have awarded projects in and proposals in the back end, we already have that structure and we already have all those fields. So it's just a question of adding them here in the right way to the right pool. And as you see, Arslan just goes on with the milestone deliverers. So you can have a milestone title, a budget, a description, and you can have one or multiple deliverables. I think most of the time it will be 0 or 1, but if you have, for instance, 3 demo videos or whatever, you could add all of them here. And all this will be visible for everybody, of course. And later on, when you are awarded, these will still be on your project detail page without us needing to interfere at all. And then we can just mark them as being ready. So he's really showing the milestones very thoroughly in the 2.5 minutes, but you get the idea. So you can make as many milestones as you like, and they're all structured in the right way, in the same way. So talking about eligibility reviews that we did the last 2 rounds, and the last round with the community, I think this kind of forum will make their jobs a lot easier and will ensure that we have a lot less friction with submitting teams and proposals. Going on with discussions and milestones. Okay, so that's it. That's all, folks. I'll continue for one moment on my presentation to show you a few last things, and then I'm hoping to get some feedback from you. So I'll make this slide a little bit bigger. So what I wanted to show you is where we are right now development wise, and what we will expect to have in the next version, and what we will build, but will take a little bit more time. So I'll use the same slides as I used before, but show you the status. So submission forms, as you can see, all these things that I mentioned, maximum characters, required fields, formatting, we will have in the next version of this platform. Well, we will still not have an API, but we won't need it anymore because everything is integrated in the same platform. Maybe at some point we'll, if you think we do need an API for some external thing, we can still build it. Feedback and notifications. Email notifications will take a little bit more time. It's not on the critical path yet. So actually also in Sway, the next round, we will have to turn that functionality off. So that is something. And also when we do it, we want to do it right, especially send it by mail and show it on your My environment. We want to make sure that we do it right. But what we will have there is already a feature that allows the deep funding staff to easily communicate, send mails or whatever to all the proposers. Finally, UX and AI tooling. Well, I do hope our new site will be quicker, have quicker page loads than the current Sway environment. We won't have any AI support tools. You can do that yourself with ChatGPT. You don't need us for that. Maybe we'll have something in the future, but that's not our main goal right now. And we won't have that AI summary in the way anymore. The editor, I'm not sure if we will have those previews in the first version of a video, but as you can see, we have already the ability to make more structure wherever we want. So I think that will be solved as well. And then the last slide, I think. So on the left are the things that we expect to have in the next version. By the up and down vote, already have a way to have good comments, interesting comments flow to the top. Well, you already can see right now in our portal that we have better hierarchy in missions and pools. Well, we won't have that voting option. It's only, you have to go to the voting portal. That's the only way. And as you could see, there is a way actually to change your proposal from one pool to another. Then what we won't have yet, but later, is integration with contribution scores. We're also waiting for the finished product of another team there in order to do that. Yeah, better integration with wallet linking tool, maybe also Cardano, Web3. As I mentioned, maybe we'll determine that just having a kind of semi-manual link to the wallet linking tool is sufficient. Improve comment rating options. You already saw that actually with the recommendation by the proposer. So actually we do have an improvement there, and for rest it's a matter of choice. Whether we just want to have up and down. Our UX designer, Craig, is not a big fan of having stars there. It's maybe a little bit overkill, but we have options at least, and we can make a choice there. And then that peer community reviews is something we'll have to develop, and it's all certainly not on the critical path right now. Better communication options, mentioned that already. Oh, Web3 login is there twice. So I think that's it for now. So then let me just give the significance of this. I'll stop sharing actually. So the significance of this for round 3. That's the last thing I'm going to say about this, and I'll leave you some of you, if you want to give your feedback. We have a number of options here. We have 2 options basically. So one option would be to continue with Sway for at least the next round. The upside of that would be is that we can move quickly. We can start a next round in a matter of weeks. We need to do a little bit of preparation on these processes that I talked about to make sure that we're well equipped when we start the next round. But for the rest, there's nothing stopping us to just start a new round almost tomorrow, but probably in 2 weeks. The alternative is say, well, there are quite a few downsides on Sway. Maybe we should just wait until this new portal is done. But of course, there are uncertainties there. We don't know. We still have to start testing. We also hope that we can find some community members to help us test. We'll make a test script for that and some other things. So it will take longer. It will definitely take longer. We don't know exactly how long, but a realistic scenario would be, if we're really positive, end of August, more realistic, beginning of September. But it could even be a month later if we have setbacks in testing and bugs, etc. You know how that goes. Actually, until now, you see what we have been developing. We have developed all this, including the awarded teams pages, the overview pages, and all that since the beginning of the year. So that will give you some confidence that we are actually on a pretty good trajectory here. And then there's one, the 2 options very clearly are go quick, but accept that we have Sway with a number of limitations and downsides, or wait until we have the next version of our own portal, but then accept that it will take a little bit more time. And there's one more observation to this, is that we're going into the summer. So regardless from these 2 options, there's another consideration here to be made. Do we want to have a deep funding round in the months of July and August? Does that make sense or not? So that's all my input. So yeah, I'm really curious. What do you think of this? So personally, with this development, what I like best about it is the fact that it gives us control. It gives us options. If we have a new idea tomorrow, we can start building it and we can prioritize it the way we want, and we are not dependent on third parties for this. So I think that is a huge upside. Whether you like some features or not like them, we can continue to build and tweak them, but at least we have some control here. So, but I'm very curious. What do you think? What do you make of it? Curtis, you're the first. You beat Mauro to it, I think. Yeah.
Mine is actually an additional question, I guess you could say, specifically to should the next round be on Sway or wait until the WordPress platform is built out. For me, there's an additional question: is what is the mission or the objective of having another round, and is it impacted by the downsides of the Sway platform?
Yeah, of course it's impacted. So otherwise we wouldn't have this discussion, right? So the reason for a new round is the same reason why we have round 1 and 2, and we will also have 22 and 23 later on. We want to grow our deep funding platform. So it's important to make that statement again, sometimes forgotten or a little bit out of sight. But the reason why we're doing all these things is why we want to grow our decentralized AI platform for all known reasons. We believe in decentralization in AI. We think we want to have it inclusive and democratic and accessible to all. And we really think that's important. And one way of achieving this, or one element, one part of achieving that, would be through making our platform available and successful. And to do that, we need a lot of projects and a lot of AI services. So also time is important right now. You know, all the developments in AI. So there was this question of pausing AI. I'm sure you all heard about that. So the question is, should we pause our system? And to make this a little bit clear, we will not make a decision on round 3 tonight. I'm just trying to get input. I haven't made up my own mind. I have some other people to ask as well. But your input is, of course, very important. And I'm just here to listen to your perspective on that. So, yeah, and related to whether that purpose, whether Sway or WordPress has an impact, I think currently there are so many downsides that we have to disappoint teams. We have teams that leave sometimes a little bit frustrated because they didn't get an answer in time, or they didn't know their project was not approved, or their project was misrepresented somewhere on our website or even on the voting portal. So those are real world issues that we're facing. And I think for a platform and a program like ours, having a good user experience is absolutely crucial. We want to make the experience for both the people that submit a proposal and the people that comment as seamless and as positive as we can.
Thank you, Jan. And that was kind of my point with the question, was if the objective of another fund round is growth, and then that growth is negated by the frustrations the user has on the Sway platform, then where did the growth come from?
Yeah, so there's a risk there. So there are two risks, right? One risk is waiting, and the other risk is going forward, but with maybe downsize due to a poor user experience. So there's no ideal. The ideal option would be in the new portal and have it ready tomorrow, but unfortunately that's not possible. Henrik.
I think one of my observations with these different communities is that when they go through long pauses, it does, you do lose some vitality in the community. And the thing, my feeling is that the Sway interface isn't perfect, but there's some aspects of it, for instance, that I think are better than IdeaScale, which is what the Cardano Catalyst program has been using. There may be other things where, like you're saying, the AI interface is innovative, but maybe not quite there in terms of adding real value. But I don't think any of that is sort of showstopper to hosting another round on Sway. And while I do like the new portal, the proof is in the pudding as to how much better the new approach is going to be. You know, like, and so until you've actually tested it and used it, you know, something new always looks attractive until you start using it, right? So the designs and the dreams sort of, I'm sure are very attractive right now, but I would be careful about sort of throwing out what you have before you're really ready to launch and feel satisfied with something new.
Yeah, so you're right in everything you're saying. You're absolutely right, and you know it from experience, the current. So it's also important to have your view on that. Of course. So if we would make the decision to go on Sway, then we either can or cannot start 2 weeks from now. If you would make the decision that maybe we will not go on Sway, but on our new platform, then the first thing that we would start doing is do a first test round. And then after that test round, we would have a better impression where we are and if there are still a lot lacking. And of course, then a couple of weeks later, we would still be able to make the call. It's too early for this platform and we'll do another round on Sway. And you're right also with the rhythm. It's important to keep the rhythm up, but it's a balancing act. So rhythm against, sometimes a poor user experience, I would say. I think there was one more point, but I forgot. So let's go to Alex.
Hey, I just have a quick question. Is there like on your thing, it said something about a Cardano wallet, and do you have MetaMask connected to it also? So like, does that all integrate with either system?
So currently on our Sway platform, there's a MetaMask login, but there's no option to have a Web3 login with Cardano. So the connections between your profile and your voting profile are not always easy. So we made an option to have a field where you can add your Cardano wallet, so we can make the connection if you vote with your Cardano wallet, but it's hard to find because it's just a generic field that they can't name just for us because it's a generic product, and not everybody found it or is using it or whatever. So what we do have on our voting portal, we have the option of what we call wallet linking tool. So if you vote already, you are connected to that wallet linking tool, but it will enable you by making multiple logins to connect as many wallets as you want. So those could be 3 wallets on Cardano, and they could be a number of wallets on Ethereum. And that way we can create one balance out of all your wallets and have both AGIX on Ethereum and Cardano accounted for. So that means you only have to go through the voting experience and the whole exercise once for all your wallets. And it has additional benefits as well, that tool, but let's not get into that right now. So I think this is a nifty but important tool also for the future of our ecosystem and tying a lot of things together, also contribution scoring, for instance. So in the new platform, we will not have a Web3 login, but what we will have is the option to link your profile to the collection ID. Currently, we will do that by just getting the collection ID in some format and pasting that in your Word profile, and that will know they are linked. So important for the new version is we have the wallet linking tool. It connects all your wallets, and it will have one ID relating all these wallets to your profile. And if you have that ID in your WordPress profile, we will be able to connect all of that together. It's not really, so that connection with WordPress is low tech. The wallet tool is okay, we need to develop it further. But I think it will be an important tool to the future. And at some point, maybe we can make that integration a little bit nicer. But I think for all purposes where we need it, it would already be okay. And in some sense, maybe even better than what we have right now in Sway. Right, Mauro, my friend.
Hey guys, well, pretty glad to know that this migration will happen, because nowadays when I need to explain to someone what is deep funding, I need to share two links and sharing screen with two different pages. But I'm a little concerned to implement it in deep funding round 3 for two main reasons. The first one is that any bug or any mistake or any error in the page maybe could be taken with someone as attacking the fair play between competitors. So we don't want to anyone feel that way, and we don't want to have that discussion right now. The other thing is that I'm a little concerned that the implementation right now in the next round will be a new barrier for new users. And what I was thinking is that, as Kenrick says, to not delay the round of the process, when I consider most feasible and more accurate to test this new platform is in the governance calls, because we, the active members, are very active in that area, and we can include more feedback, test more features, and anyone will be at feel or being attacked in the fair play, you know? So for me, regarding that aspect, the most important moment and to test this new platform with the community and make the migration with more responsibility and ultimating the details that we want to see in the other rounds in the future is in the governance call. So that will be also allowed to the team of Deep Funding and Singularity Foundation to ultimate details in the round 3 going forward to the next governance round. So it's only my feedback, what I can to see in what we talked today, but I'm super glad that this migration is happening, because today is a little bit difficult when you're trying to explain to a brand, a people, a project, or an individual how it works with two different links and two different ways of info. It's super good to have only one way, but that's only my opinion.
And we value that opinion very much, Mauro. Yeah, so thank you. Yeah, I will definitely take you up on the offer to help us testing. And that is an important thing, and we need to have some testing in place, and I'm sure there will be bugs, and I'm sure there will be issues, and it won't be perfect, but then again, Sway isn't perfect either, right? I've outlined that with length, so it's still a kind of balancing act. Like I say, I don't have a clear preference at this moment. I'm still trying to absorb and get my mind around what is wisdom here. Regarding new users, well, existing users will maybe find this a little bit extra threshold. I hope not too much. But of course, the fact of the matter is that I hope, at least, that also we will have a lot of new users. And we want to have the new users to have the best experience possible, and not have them put off because and not come back again because they think it's suboptimal. Of course, there are no guarantees. Also, WordPress can be, like Kenrick says, it also always looks nice and shiny. And I make the comment in my first slide saying, on the good things of Sway are all the things we take for granted. And what I mean by that is, if we start out with WordPress, we might find out all the things that we didn't think about, which look so obvious, but are not there yet in WordPress. But I don't know. We'll have to see. So for sure, there will be a testing period if we decide not to start a quick round quickly. Then the other scenario will be, there will be a testing period, a couple of weeks, I don't know. And after that, we can make up our mind and we can see where we are. And maybe we'll think, oh, this needs a lot of extra work. Well, then we'll do that and we'll still continue on Sway. And maybe we are very happy with what we see, and then we have options. All right.
Yeah. No, and also, just a few words, is that maybe doing the round 3 with Sway will allow to close the business relationship in a good way. So will be to have a closure in that area, maybe some way. So will be an
I'm not too worried. I'm not too worried about that. I have a good relationship with the people from Sway, and we will continue to use Sway, right? Just for other purposes than this specific deep funding use case. Guillermo.
Fly, you go fly. 2 Argentinians in a row can be too much for these people.
Okie dokie. Yeah, I just think one of the main things is kind of reliability about the platform. And I think it's a measure between short term and long term. Do see problems in Sway platform, but there have been problems which have been kind of solved with communication, good communication. So I don't think it's like if there are problems with Sway, they can't be solved. Like kind of, yeah, perhaps some can't be gotten around, but I don't know whether it's too long to wait till September or something like that for a new round. I guess I remember it saying originally like every 3 months, and I think it's something people are perhaps looking for in the platform of like consistency, and not that something's going to change every few months, or whether something's going to be delayed 2 or 3 months. Yeah,
I agree.
yeah,
I agree. We need to go to a situation where things are a little bit more predictable and that we get into a rhythm that makes sense. Currently, we're not there yet. We're too much experimenting. Also, the governance rounds, they take up a lot of time. So that's already a factor why it's hard to have 4 deep funding rounds and 4 governance rounds in 1 year. So when we started out with 4 rounds, we didn't take into account these governance round because that was a later invention. But you're right. Kenrick mentioned it also. There is something to be said for rhythm and moving forward, but it's not a perfect world, so we have to balance these things out.
totally. Nice.
Guillermo, do you still
I think that's what. Oh, I my hand up. Oh, go ahead, Guillermo.
Okay, please. No worries.
Well, that's what I was going to say, particularly in your last comment, John, is that to me, the more appropriate time to think about when to integrate WordPress platform is after the testing. So it seems like I think it's exciting to be kind of moving towards what could be a better platform, but it also sounds a little bit mature to be scheduling that if you haven't even gotten to your testing stage yet.
Yeah, so there are 2 reasons why I'm showing it to you right now. First one is to give you an option. Well, there are more reasons. Actually, you also want to feedback. Do you like what you're seeing? Do you think it's an improvement? But also to have an argument that if we continue with Sway and the user experience is not perfect, that there's something better at the horizon. So that's also part of the message of today.
Right.
But maybe we can also have some short review on, forget all these platforms. We are now, 22nd of June. So we could start a new round in the first half of July. Maybe the first week, maybe the first half, I don't know. Is that a good idea? I know I started the deep funding round 2 before Christmas, at the beginning of September or something, thinking that it would actually be a benefit because people would have time off and they would be out of their normal rhythm and they would have some thinking time to carve out a day and to create a really good proposal. The feedback that I got after Christmas is, Jan, we were all on holiday. We didn't have time for proposals. So the reaction we had is we extended the timeline with 2 weeks to make up for the holiday. So I also heard Peter mentioning that in general, in the community, July and especially August are slow months. So we might end up in a situation. So it's also here. I don't want to steer this direction, this discussion in any direction, because I haven't made up my own mind here yet. But there's a possibility if we would say, well, we shouldn't do it in the summer. Well, we can still continue working on Sway and testing and have a good feeling about it and delay decision a little bit and come back in August somewhere and have the same discussion and say, okay, with the knowledge of today, what is the best step now? And maybe we'll still go for Sway, but that's a different situation. So question is it a good thing to start a new round in July? Of course, we can do the same thing as last time. If we notice that there's not enough engagement, we can still extend it a little bit. We have that option, but it's also not the best thing to do, right? I see 2 hands up.
Okay, so I make some notes. Sorry, Mauro, but I want to jump on this so I don't miss the train of the discussion, because I think what Kenrick, Fly, Mauro, we are all discussing good points. So I make some notes. I work on the Mesosonic era. Okay, I'm from the pen kind of world. So time delaying. It's always difficult to keep the rhythm in new developments. But at the same time, we are overlapping with Catalyst. It's a lot of people that share objectives. And Catalyst just started. I see, it depends on how you approach the problem. It can be good, it can be bad. I'm not saying it's one or the other, but it can take a lot of good developers from the deep funding if we start into overlapping. I see there probably a good opportunity, because having our own platform is a statement for a developer company. It represents a lot to have our own platform. If we are challenging developers to create, we will be using our own creation. So I see that something challenging. Of course, there's a lot of issues of security, and what always shine is not good. And I agree with Kenrick's points. Testing will have some time, but I'd see that it will represent a good statement for the funding to have its own platform. At the same time, over in engineering as a developer, you know that outsourcing is a good thing. I do myself with my own business. Sometimes to handle a lot, it represents you need to diversify your budget, to be on top of too many tools at the same time. So sometimes to outsource and to handle responsibilities to an organ that is already working, and you can complain and say, hey, I want this, I want that. It works. It works. It's like having a good drummer. It's a upbeat, downbeat. That's it. You don't play the drums. You just make the melody. Sorry for my metaphors with music, but I see outsourcing sometimes works. It works for me. But as a statement point of view, I see that it will represent something bold for gaming. I see what you shown, John, from the platform. They are all, I see I like what I see. I like the comments. I like I think they are all good results from our conversations. What I saw. There's a lot of inputs that us as a community are giving to the creative team, and it's good that you guys are listening. You know, sometimes we talk too much. And I finished with that. I finished with a question. If we delay this, or no, the opposite. If we start round 3, 2 weeks, at the same time, we will keep the development on our own platform, or that will delay for 3 months the development. We will keep going.
Yes, we will definitely keep going. Whatever decision we make will not impact any development that we will continue to do on the WordPress platform. So, do you want to finish? Otherwise, I would like to give a quick reaction to some points. So first of all, on the point of outsourcing, sometimes outsourcing works, sometimes it doesn't. We started with the idea of buy versus build and not build. But after a very quick very good start, that deteriorated, and we didn't see enough progress for a long time. And already when I started out with, before even selecting Sway, I knew there were different roads. And if one road wouldn't work, that we would go to another road. So I think it's important to keep in charge here and to keep driving this and not let any third party decide completely what is going on.
I totally agree on that point. I was not assuming having the responsibility is a big challenge, but I totally agree with you. I'm just discussing in terms of the timeline. I agree with you.
As another illustration, we're working a very different topic on a staking portal on Cardano that should have been finished in something November last year. It's done completely, or at least we started out completely by having it done by a third party. And we can shout and scream, but it doesn't go any faster. So yeah, sometimes that's also not ideal. But when you outsource things, the most important criterion is how crucial, how essential is this to your core business? And that ties into something else I would like to expand a little bit on here. I see the vision of this WordPress and whether it will in the future still be WordPress or something else, that's not important. But the platform, the way I see it develop is we started with an information page. And now we are building the submission portal. But that's not the end. I want to build in more stuff. I want to have some kind of knowledge base or wiki in there. And I want to have additional collaboration tools so that developers and UXers and marketeers and AI enthusiasts, etc., they can find each other and talk to each other and educate and support each other. That is really the dream. And another thing I would like to have embedded there, and maybe we'll use a third-party software for that, is some kind of environment where you can offer your services like a freelance platform. Let's call it that. So another way of connecting. So all these tie into our vision of making Deep Funding into a collaborative platform that will seed that will seed our decentralized AI platform, but also will be a place to connect and meet each other and support each other, etc. And because that is so core to our vision, we can't leave that completely up to third parties. Because they are a little bit less interested. You're not always on the first place, even if you're the best friends. And I'm not talking about Sway now, but more in general. And sometimes it's important to have control, that if we think we really want to have this Web3, Cardano Web3 thing in a week, that we can basically build it instead of negotiating and waiting, etc. So it gives us more opportunities and more flexibility also in learning, right? Seeing what will work and what won't work and continuously changing and updating that. So that's the vision. And that's also about outsourcing. So for now, I think that especially the submission part, the commenting part is not my most, not where I have most problems, but that proposal submission thing is so crucial to the core of what we are doing, that at this stage I would like to do that internally and not rely on a third party. Anybody else?
Yes, I want to highlight that everyone in this meeting loved the new platform, and we are really interested in the implementation of that. But the main discussion is how to implement. And regarding about starting on July or not in the breaks, I think that summer is different like the winter break because it's holidays and that kind of things. And there's no doubt that the round 2 have more engagement than round 1. And we already achieved any goals that we can consider, and that shows in the numbers. So for me, there is no doubt also that there is no problem to implement the round in the summer. Again, we can extend the deadline, but the implementation was super cool in December, and we have even more engagement. As Kenrick says, we have some power now with the time, etc. And again, in my opinion, with the books that will always take place in this development, I don't want that anyone in the community feels sad or something like that, or thinks that the fair play is taken away because of the implementation of the new platform. So as I see it, the best way to test it with the community is in the governance call. I want to remark it again, but is the solution when the foundation ones and the Kenrick ones is like in the middle of the decision of each of us. So that's why, and I think that July in the summertime will have a great engage too. So there will not be a mistake in that.
All right. Well, thank you for your kind words. I also appreciate the way that you look back on round 2 as being successful and growing situation. And actually, I'm also very glad that with the feedback that I'm getting right now, that it's not that bad, right? So Sway is basically fulfilling its job, also by people like Kenrick and also Mauro and others here as well. That have experienced it themselves. So that's also a good outcome. So
well,
yes,
I want to say, Jan, for me, the round through was a huge success because a lot of high quality profiles are here. We are meeting all Thursday. Some projects are sending their milestones right now, such as develop projects or tech projects. So for me, today, there is no doubt that the round 2 was a huge success. Let's see what happened with the other milestones of projects, but that shows that we are learning in each step. So we learn from the mistakes, but we need to say that for me, regarding the numbers, regarding the value and the people who are here today, was a huge success. We are looking how to improve it, but was a pretty cool experience in my opinion. And knowing that I have a previous experience with other communities, but I want to say it so it could be a good power up for the foundation team.
Thank you so much. Ubio, before I give you your time, I would have one question to others. So Mauro says, I think summer holiday is different than holiday season in the winter. I see no objection for that reason to start a new round. Is there somebody here who does think it's not the best time to start a round in the summer?
I think probably that's gonna tie down to what I was about to say. Yeah, so
right.
yeah, so I think that's maybe probably a good way to kickstart my comment. My comment was somehow a little bit different because I wanted to say that we're building a global brand, and with global brands, we most times don't focus on what is peculiar to certain communities or certain geographies. We try to speak the language that is broad and widely accepted. The concept of summer and winter may be very relative to people in America and Europe, but unfortunately, yeah, unfortunately, what we're building is a global brand, and it's the peak of work somewhere else, and so summer, no summer. We of course we understand where that idea comes from, but I'm trying to see it's nice that we start tilting our ideas out of it, because what we are building is global, and I can assure you, like a lot of people from outside of the US and Europe especially are going to be applying for round 3. Like I can specifically assure you that, because I know a lot of people I'm talking to. So I wouldn't want us to limit the whole this. So now this is not to say whether summer is good or winter is not good. This is rather to say that we should make decisions based on other parameters, not necessarily about whether it's winter holiday over there in the US or in the Europe, or whether it's winter break or not. So that is the first point I wanted to say. About the discussion we are having, right, on how what's our opinion on the portal. Okay, so I think there's something we are all agreeing here is the fact that this is going to be a game changer. The features are quite unique, and it's also obvious that this is what we've been looking for, the whole level of control. And it's beautiful inviting someone to deep funding, and then the person is coming to our portal and not just an external portal. Like, this is a game changer. I think we all do agree on that. However, what I do feel is that we are trying to rush the process. Now, this is me talking from the tech point of view. Development takes time, and so a lot of things will break. And I've never seen any developmental process that went straight. I've never had one in all of my years of working with of development, right? So definitely this is not going to work straight, right? So this is the way I'm feeling it. I may be wrong, but this is just the feeling I'm getting. We've built something, we know this is going to be a game changer, and then we are trying to rush in because we think this is quite innovative and quite cool, that we are missing out a fundamental principle of development, which is test, and test. So I think if I'm given an opinion to speak on this, I would say, beautiful, we are doing something awesome, but let's follow the process. I would suggest that we give this one more round, and after this round, we can now, a lot of things must have developed to a wonderful stage where we can sufficiently move. Of course, that's not going to be like a stage where everything is working, but it's a stage where we can sufficiently move, and we will be proud that we are actually moving, right? So that's what I want to add. And is July a nice time to do? I think for me, I would say, yeah, like especially the last week of July. Yeah, I would say, yeah, like it would be a very nice time to kickstart it. That's just on a personal note. Like I may not have any specific reason for that, but I just feel like, yeah, last week of July, it's a nice time to have it start. Yeah, so I'm not gonna give any reason for that.
Thank you, Rubio. Thank you. I really appreciate your comments and your on point. I would almost say I stand corrected by being so localized in my thoughts, by Yeah, just considering Western hemisphere holidays and so on. So you absolutely have a good point there. Also on the other thing, game changer, I love those words. Not sure if it will be a game changer, but I think it will be an important component in our broader vision. But where you also made a very good point is in, saying that if we want to launch something new, there's also a risk if the first experience is not good enough. So everybody can live with 1 or 2 bugs. We should expect that. You're completely right. There will be bugs. There will be issues. Even if we test, and we will test, by the way, in whatever scenario we choose, we will test. Don't doubt it. But there is something to be said to take sufficient time to make sure, well, you could phrase it like this. Maybe we shouldn't just build an MVP, but we should, well, sometimes the word that's being used is an MLP. So MVP stands for minimal viable product. But we could also make a minimal lovable product, or even something is happening with the lighting here, but maybe this is good. Or even have something that is a little bit more matured. So, yeah, I thank you all for these discussions. I find that they're already influencing me. So, yeah, very good points. Thank you. We're a quarter of time now. I love the discussion. It's a good thing that Raphael told me he wouldn't be able to make his presentations. Those were on the peer review, but also on the eligibility review. I'll make one point here. So I thought, I think, so the peer review, we have some time, because that's only taking place at the end of the round. For the eligibility review, in contrast to the previous round, I would like to have that process and the people and the teams lined up at the beginning of the round, because then they might already start warning people or seeing people or communicate if they want. We'll give them some freedom. We also are talking whether we should give the same team, the same people, some role in the milestone assessment. So if you are involved in approving a proposal, you already have some familiarity with the proposal, then at some point, number of weeks or months after the round, the first, the second, the third milestone will come in, and we have to determine if it is what we expected and if it warrants a disbursement. Very important here is that we don't want to create some kind of police force that only says no. We are here to support the teams and to help the teams and to coach the teams. So that would always be the mindset here. But I do think it would be helpful to have the community also involved in that process. And I think it would be interesting or would make sense to have the same team that does the eligibility reviews, that helps with that, also give them some part in the milestone reviews. And that's also a process that needs to evolve over time, and that maybe in our new portal we can at some point offer some features that make that process easier, but I'm getting ahead of myself here. But I think it's important that we have these teams lined up and properly instructed before we start the next round. So I would actually argue that that is the most important thing that would keep us from starting a new round tomorrow. So I'm mentioning this now. Raphael will maybe in the next meeting tell a little bit more about it, and also about the peer reviews. The reason that I'm mentioning it now is that if anybody is interested in that role or wants to be part of these tasks, we will reach out to everybody who fantastically helped us in last round. It was really ad hoc, really last minute, but we did it wonderfully. So I'm still grateful for that. Right now, we'll try to do a little bit more proper under the proper guidance of Raphael. So if you're interested, then reach out, keep in touch on Discord, reach out to Raphael, tell that you would like, and then Raphael will, at some point next week after, I don't know, give you some more information on how we see the process and the task, etc. Anything, Raphael, you still want to add here, or is it okay like this? You can just put your thumb up if you want.
Oh, it's okay, Jan. You made a good abstract about it. And next week, I will reach out in the both case eligibility process and the peer reviews, which are different groups that proceed with it. And I'm going to explain and clarify the processes for us to go forward with it.
Great. Thanks so much. Is there anybody right now who has some completely deviating ideas on anything that was being said today? And I would love to hear it. And I'll give you your time still. And if that is, I see some.
UX. One thing that we didn't discuss about how bad Sway is on mobiles. Something we didn't even mention. It's terrible. One thing is not being able to change from challenges, having some feedback from the community. It was a big thing on round 2. The community mentioning to proposals, this belongs to pool number 3 of A or B. And as you mentioned, having to, so if the decision is to go ahead on SWI and keep on developing our own planner form that, as I mentioned, is a statement as a developer and a bunch of engineers to have our own long-term development. I totally agree with that. Yeah. Have that in mind. SOA is terrible on mobiles, and it's something good that we make it work on mobiles. Okay.
Yeah. So WordPress will be responsive design, so that should already work better. So yeah, it's a good thing to know. And one more thing: anybody who will be experiencing that, if we indeed take the decision to move forward rather quickly with round 3, I will tell them, just wait and be patient, and in a couple of months we'll have a better solution for you. All right, I think on that note, we can finish this meeting. Thank you so much for your patience and letting me talk through all that presentation and giving all the arguments. I thought we need to do this proper with all the proper arguments in place so that you understand why we're doing this. By the way, we also looked at other options. We looked at different kind of collaboration with Sway. We looked at different ways of developing it, and the reason that we went for Word is because both budget-wise and timeline-based, we think we can give the best result in the shortest amount of time and resources. So that also gives us a head start. We'll continue the discussion. We'll keep you posted on deep funding round 3. I'll have some more discussions internally, and we'll make a decision rather quickly, I think. And also, we will be inviting you to start testing our wonderful new platform. So thank you for your attention, and have a great day, evening, morning, summer, winter, whatever. And thank you for being here, and see you next time.